Howdy, and welcome to the Tiowey Politics Podcast, Episode 4. Today we'll be talking about the El Salvador February 4th, 2024 presidential election. This conversation took place a few days prior. Again, my audio wasn't the best, so it was re-recorded, and the camera was off so that the guests could speak candidly. Warning, a few minutes of our discussion covers some disturbing events of El Salvador's history, but it was necessary to understand the circumstances of the present day. Enjoy.
Thank you for having me. It's a pleasure for me to have this chat um, and to talk about some things that are not as cool as people think outside our borders. And we can talk about a lot of things. Of course, there are a lot of good changes, and the thing is that for how long it's viable for everyone. I mean, it's good for everyone. And if you analyze that, it's like if your individual rights are not guaranteed, it's not gonna stand for a long time. But we can talk slowly about that.
Yes, thank you for being here. So, tell me a bit about yourself.
Yes, I am an electrician. I work here and there. Like everyone else, we work hard. Salaries down here are not so good, so but we still have to take bread to our tables. So I do electrician. I do some mechanics sometimes.
Nice. I'm glad to have the perspective of a regular Salvadorian, and thankfully you speak English and are interested in politics. So, first, for those who aren't as familiar, please tell us a bit about the country.
Okay, cool, man. Thank you. And we are the smallest country in the Americas. We are in the center of the continent, actually, Central America. We are a country that, for the last century, has had a lot of troubles, rise and falls. We have beautiful beaches. We have beautiful views. We have volcanoes. We have one of the most emblematic dishes, in Latin America, which are pupusas. They are awesome. Yes, sir. Our neighbors are just in the north and west, Guatemala, and north and east on Honduras. We just have the Pacific Ocean in our side, in our south border. So we are called the North Triangle, these three countries, because it's like we are very similar. The only thing that might change is the accent,
Hmm.
from Guatemalans to Hondurans to Salvadorans. We have a pretty tight relationship because we are, essentially brothers.
So, what is El Salvador's significance geopolitically?
Whoa, well, that's an interesting question because in the first half century of the 20th century, we were a pretty strong small economy. We harvest one of the finest coffee in the world. We used to have a pretty strong industry, but wars started to diminish our capacities. By the middle 70s, the communist wave that came from the south became like a danger for the oligarchs, and they were actually backed up a lot for the United States. The United States contributed training troops to fight communists. So geopolitically, in the middle 70s, 80s, we were pretty important for the United States. But as the backyard of your country, man, it was like Reagan and all these guys were like, we don't want communists to win territory, to have all these countries. So they start to give a lot of money to governments here in Central America that became eventually dictatorships. We had a lot of civil wars. Actually, we had a 12-year civil war. Guatemala had like a 25-year civil war.
Wow.
So that damaged a lot of things. From that conflict, a lot of children were orphans.
Oh, no.
Yes, I mean, in our civil war, died between 75,000 people and 100,000 people.
Damn.
Yeah, man, it's insane. It's like, I mean, yeah. I mean, imagine that. I mean, it's insane, and a lot of these deaths were caused for by the army, Salvadorian soldiers that they caused a slaughter
Oh man.
in the rural areas. So that's why a lot of people from El Salvador live in the United States, in Canada, in Sweden, because they were exiled. They
Yeah.
were. I mean, actually, if you look around for some literature, you're gonna find that the most horrible massacre in the recent history of Latin America was here in El Salvador,
Oh man.
in a rural area that's called El Mozote.
Mm-hmm.
So they killed around 1,000 people between old men, women, and children. I mean, just to remember what I read of all the history that is. I mean, I can't even understand how that happened, how that level of insanity took the heads of the armies. And and the true crime is that the United States knew about it, but they wanted to win the war on communists. So I mean, it's like, uh, it was a blessing when the wall of Berlin fell and the USSR, disappeared, because there was no, um, more excuse to give money to our troops from the people of America. So
Yeah.
I mean, that helped, but the real thing that triggered like a lot of voices inside the Congress, it was the massacre of 6 priests
Mm.
that they were from the Catholic University. It's called UCA here,
Mm-hmm.
the Central America University, excuse me.
Mm.
So they are Jesuit priests. They were Jesuit priests. There is a museum, actually. You can go and you can watch how barbaric they were, because the museum was standing in the same place where they were murdered,
Okay.
inside the university. So the troops got into university, and they just opened fire with machine guns, and the brains of the priests were all over the floor. It was savage, man. It was. I mean, as I tell you, I don't know why that level of insanity. So imagine all these kind of behaviors in popular neighborhoods where everyone is suspect. There were a lot of people that were disappeared.
Oof.
There were a lot of children that were just left, and those were the seed of the gangs, or big trouble, for over 30 years, from the middle 90s to a few years ago, where the popular president, put them into jail. But the really worrying thing is that a lot of journalists, independent journalists, have showed that the man has already packed with gangs. They have, I know the last investigation, they were saying that they even doing trade with the Jalisco cartel. So, and that's a trouble. That's a trouble. You know why? Because The gangs here in the middle 90s, these were like songs of Salvadorians that ran away from the war, you know. But when they were in place like Los Angeles, I mean, they created gangs in the United States, and then the government said, "Hey, goodbye, go back to your country." And these guys were like with a high degree of criminality, you know. They were already knew how to do extortion, how to kill, how to the people. I remember when I was pretty little, I was like 5 or 6 years old when they I remember that I saw a newspaper that had in the front page like Maras, a dangerous trend.
Mhm.
Man, it was the devil actually that was coming here. So they began to like start with groups of kids. They start to hang out, but then they start to rob, and they start to make some assaults, and eventually they had a great uh, firepower. They had machine guns, they had guns, they had, I mean, everything that you can imagine, they had it. So they became a fact, but I don't know if it's right to say a fact power. It's like
De facto power.
a de facto power. Yes, they became that. I mean, um, there were neighborhoods that you couldn't. I mean, let's say something. You're from Austin, right?
Yeah.
And yes, and then let's say that you want to go to, I don't know, Dallas to Fort Worth, just for say something. If the gang, if a gangster catch you up and they even ask you for your ID,
Wow.
so they used to watch your address. And let's say that anything, I don't, I've been used to whatever, Austin. Hey, you come from our rivals, so we're gonna kill you.
Wow.
They always thought that people that came from other areas, they were like spying, or they were like trying to penetrate their fort, and a lot of guys were disappeared in that way. I mean, it was almost a crime. It was a death sentence if your girlfriend, for say something, lived in a different area and it was ruled by other gang. Man, you could see it just in the mall, or maybe you could just go outside, or you can just watch her. Let's say watch her in your job if you met her there, but you couldn't go to her home. You had to ask for their permission to
Wow.
other to get into their houses. I mean, it was insane,
So,
right? I mean, it's like actually one of my aunts. Uh, she lives in what used to be a very dangerous area. I mean, it was like pretty bad area.
mm,
So the thing is that if we want to go to her house, I mean, I never went because they will surely kill me. But no, older women and stuff, if they wanna to come in, they had to walk, like half of mile and pick you up,
whoa.
and I was like take you from down from your arm, and it was like they were like he's with that was a sign like he's with me or he's my relative. So I mean, can you imagine that? Can you just imagine that there in the I know imagine that in the United States? I mean, it's not possible. Life is not possible.
And so it was a completely failed state.
Totally. And the true crime of the two parties that ruled the country before this one is that both of them uh, they were they were doing pact with gangsters. They were doing trade. I mean, they were trading like boats
Wow.
or influence. I mean, it was like Okay, if you bring me, I don't know, if you assure me some votes, well, no, we're not gonna send the police to your area.
Wow.
On we're going, for the low levels of the gangs, but the main men, no, it's okay. They were living in nice houses. Why?
Man.
Because they were extortionists.
As for the U.S. involvement that led to this in the first place, was there any strategic significance in El Salvador? Were there resources they were trying to control, or was it really just stopping the spread of what they thought was the threat of communism at the time?
No, no, no. They just want to stop the communist. You know, they're
Okay.
they were expanding. They won the war in Nicaragua. They were, having a lot of cells, we want to call it, in Argentina, in Chile, in everywhere. So the leftist ideas were coming from the south, getting up, 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 and the
And
breakpoint for the United States was the Nicaraguan conflict,
mm,
because even with the help of the United States, the communists won. It was a bad blow, brother.
yeah,
It was insane. Nicaragua is another story. You have to talk with someone that
I will.
actually they had the guy who won the war in the 80s is the one who is the dictate has is ruling a dictatorship there right now. Ortega. The thing was that there were a lot of these children's orphans, that they had no shelter, they had no food, they had no money. And okay, now in the same space of time, our the deported arrived, the criminal structures arrived, and they saw in this case like, hey, they're gonna be the next generation of gangsters, and they were like, we're gonna bring you shelter, we're gonna bring you food, we are your new family,
Yeah.
and because we are your new family, now you have to do things for us,
Oh,
like
wow.
kill, like rape, like to extortion, like all these crimes that are awful.
So, a very significant part of El Salvador's plight was caused by the United States on two sides. One from anti communist paramilitary forces funded by our government, and two from criminal gangs in major American cities, especially Los Angeles, being deported back to El Salvador.
Yes, yes, and which is the thing. I mean, this was a civil war. I mean, there were not only crimes made by the anti-communists. Communists did a lot of awful things too, and as a result, hundreds of family were just like torn apart from their homes. I mean, they were displaced. I mean, it's an awful thing. The war is the most insane thing that a human mind can bring into reality.
Oh my God.
Because, yes, so let's say that that was the spark, and these guys were truly smart. These were actually pretty talented kids that were just they just had bad influences.
Yeah.
Now some of their leaders, if you look for some interviews and you hear them talk, man, they are man, you say, hey, that he doesn't talk like a gangster.
Yeah.
I mean, he's pretty smart.
They were,
They are they are polite. They use right vocabulary.
wow.
They are intelligent. They are almost politics.
Mm. So
So
you're talking about the children raised by the gangs, the orphans.
yes, sir.
Yeah.
The all these orphans were raised by the gangs, and of course, it was a matter of time that all these rat children became assassins.
So that sets the stage for a country with a lot of problems, and they want someone to fix it. Where does the current president Nayib Bukele come into the picture?
He is a pretty smart guy, but he's not as good as he wants to
Mm,
everyone to see him. So how did that happen? Well, you know, if we want to like be impartial, um, the right government took a country in ruins,
mhm,
right? I mean, we were devastated by the war. I mean, we're talking about 89,
mhm,
90, something like that.
mhm,
Actually, that first government made some awful things too,
mhm,
but in 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 that period, the war, the fire ceased.
mhm,
That was, a big breath for people
mhm,
because, my mother used to tell me some histories. When she was pregnant of my older brother, she was in the downtown, and a fight started between communists and troops. And she had like a big stomach, and she just could, throw herself to the floor, to the streets, to that hot weather, and imagine, the asphalt burning your arms. And I mean, is a burnt arm, or it's your life that might be lost. It was total insanity. So they made things, but the social tensions were always there. Before the president Bukele started to rule the country, I mean, you had to be like, you're of the right wing or you're of the left wing, but you had to be somewhere in that spectrum,
mhm,
you know. And the thing was that independent journalists always making good job. They started to show how the corruption had taken over the right wing government, and
mhm.
of course, everybody once was like, "Hey, no, we need to change this. We need to change this, etc." So we chose, I think because I made that mistake, we chose the first leftist president.
The pendulum swings too far one way and then starts to go the other way.
Yes. So let's say that he was not as radical as the other leaders, but yes, no, he had the charisma,
What was this?
and also
What was the then political party
the,
name?
the, the name of that bastard is Mauricio Funes.
Yeah.
What, you know why? Because he stole in just 5 years what the others stole in maybe 25.
Wow.
I mean, I don't know if no. I mean, he stole, like, I don't know. It's a huge amount of money.
Mhm,
So he ran away to Nicaragua, and he's protected by the dictatorship
mhm,
of, Nicaragua. Imagine that. So okay, he ran away. We choose another leftist president because it was like, okay, 5 years are not enough. We need to give another opportunity to the ideas and whatever. And by the end of the second leftist period, that was everything went messed up because the journalist revealed that both parties were having negotiations with gangs.
mhm,
They were offering millions of dollars to assure some votes, and they were even offering guns and ammo.
wow.
I mean, imagine that, just because they wanted to stay in power. And the actual president saw an opportunity because, actually, if you look for something, for his history or political career or whatever you want to call it, he came from the left party, and he was like, "I'm young and I'm a Democrat. I believe in democracy. These things are bad." I mean, even if he started ruling the capital, he was asked, "Are you running for president?" And he was, "No, that's not for me." Blah, 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 blah. And then he said, "Okay, I'm going. I'm going to run for president." And he was like, no, you shouldn't. It's illegal to stay in power for more than one period. If I ever want the presidency, I will respect the constitution. I will do whatever to do to protect the people's rights. And now we're gonna have a freedom. And look who's gonna be elected in a few days.
Yeah.
Huh. I mean, it's like, and this guy is a dictator in all the way. I mean, if people wants to think that he's cool, yes, he's cool. He's young, yes, he's young, but he's a dictator. He comes from the leftist party. He started a fight with all the high levels. The party um, expelled him. I mean, it was like, go away. You don't obey. I mean, and he won a lot of popularity when he showed what the old thinking was doing to the new thinking. After the war, there were like two major forces,
Mm.
right? The right wing party and the left wing party, right?
Yeah.
The right wing party ruled from 89 to 2009. They ruled for 20 years.
Wow.
After that, we made a switch.
Mm.
We started to choose the leftist party. So the actual president belonged to the leftist party.
Bukele?
Yes. So he started as a mayor of a small town. And he was, yes, the people, yes, the ideals,
Yeah.
yeah, whatever you want to do. And I mean, just a lot of things. He became very popular. It was like, hey, that's what every politician should do. That's what every mayor should do. And eventually, he was like, oh, hey, he's a new face. Look, the new way of thinking, or he's the new generation. And they wanted to be behind him, to just to be hide behind him, but they wanted to rule him,
Mm.
and that was their mistake. Why? Because the guys, he didn't let them rule him. He was not a puppet. He didn't behave like a puppet, and that got very mad to the leaders of the leftist party, and actually they reject him from the party. Yes, it was okay. Go home. I mean, you're nothing without the party. And actually, no, he became more popular because it was like, oh, look at those dinosaurs. They don't want true democracy. They don't believe in true values. They want to stay in power, to rip off everyone. And actually it was true. And when the actual president had this fight with the leaders, he was like, his speech was very strong because he used to criticize what these guys did to him. He started to criticize what the other guys made in the 20 years that they ruled. And of course, everyone had enough of the right wing and the left wing. The country was truly insecure. It was insecure as hell, as I already told you. And everyone saw him in like the true way of getting out of that hole.
A New Hope.
A new hope. Yeah, they saw a new hope in him. Actually, I used to believe his words, but the things became to generate a lot of doubts in people.
Mm-hmm.
Why? Because he allied with the most corrupt party in El Salvador. It's called Ghana. They are a mixture of the leftist and the right wing parties, and they were like the worst of the worst. They were mixed over there. And he allied with them to run for president. And eventually he won in 2019. In the first sight, it was like he's going good. He's going to fight against corruption. And he made a promise when he was in campaign that he was going to bring, it was called CCS, CICIES, which was a commission against impunity and corruption. It was ruled by in Spanish is OEA, Organization of America's State. Yes, so there were, people that start to investigate a lot of corruption cases that were, of course, before the President Bukele.
Mhm.
But look to surprise, they start to find a lot of corruption cases inside the government. And when they started to report all this bad stuff to the general attorney, the president closed the commission. Oh, pretty smart. I mean, he wanted this commission just looked for the crimes of the
Political.
past government,
Yeah.
just from the past, but not his. How this started to get really bad? It was when they won the election for the Congress, and it was awful actually because they won. I don't know. It's like 70 or no, it's 67. It's 67 of 84 deputies.
Oh wow.
They don't have to ask the permission of anyone. So in the first 8 hours, they changed general attorney, and they changed all the judges, the major judges of the Supreme Court. Actually, there is a digital newspaper which is called El Faro. It's awful, all the things that they have showed, and they have evidence that the corruption has increased a lot more in these 5 years than the past 30 years. Can you imagine that? So
Yeah.
technically, we are not a republic anymore. We are not a democracy anymore. We are actually one party
Mhm.
country right now. It's on a kind of dystopic.
It's like Russia.
It's almost like the Nazis, actually.
Oh wow.
Yeah, I mean uh, they used the cyan color to identify themselves. Do you know cyan, like the sky?
Yeah.
So I mean, they put how do you say cyan?
Yeah.
So they use this color and they put everything. I mean, in everything,
Wow.
and people started to believe that that was the way. They want to see changes fast, and the thing that started with the state of exception is that in a period of 72 hours 2 years ago, the gangsters killed 87 people.
Wow.
87, man.
That-
It was something like, I don't know. I mean, it's like every 40 minutes.
And you're talking about like people fighting the government or the government?
No, 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 no. People in the streets,
Oh.
normal people, gangsters just took their lives. I mean, they were like, they wanted blood. Why? Because some of their leaders got arrested,
Mm.
and it has supposedly, and that's when the thing becomes more twisted, because by that time they already had negotiations that some leaders were not going to be touched,
Mhm.
and the police making their jobs, capture them, put them into jail, and they had their revenge against people, not government, not soldiers, and they killed 87 Salvadorian innocent Salvadorians,
Wow. They
women, men and women. So that that was now that broke all the negotiations between government and gangs,
Mhm.
and the president was like, everyone is going to pay for this.
Wow.
and, and yes, and he started the state of exception, So no, so I mean everyone here has no right to privacy of communications. We are we are some if it depends which is your social status. You don't have actually a right to an attorney, to no, it's not an attorney. It's
Yeah, attorney, a law,
a lawyer.
lawyer.
Yeah, lawyer. You don't have the right to a lawyer. Maybe by 15 days, no one knows if you got arrested. Man, no one knows if you're
Wow.
good, if you're alive, if you ate, if you have the basic things to clean yourself inside the jail. And they started to arrest a lot of people just because they got nervous. Brother, if someone is pointing with a gun to you and talking to you in a strong way, of course you're gonna get nervous.
Of course.
And some people got into jail just for that, and some of them never went out because they died inside the jails.
And, and
So
I've heard that that they've also cracked down on people that just have tattoos.
yes, and there are cases like that, man. There are cases. I mean, imagine I have a friend. She works with fishermen, you know, and there was a guy who had a good day, let's say, and he was coming back home with like $2,000, from his products.
Hmm.
The police stopped him. They saw the money. He had no invoice to show that, hey, my money comes from this. They took it.
Civil
He
forfeiture.
No one knows if he got out. No one knows what happened to that money. His family, no, they took the debt of all that money. I mean, it's insane. So,
Wow. So, and he was arrested and they took his money
yes, sir.
because he was fishing and was, oh, wow.
In that, can you imagine it? So, okay, do you remember that I talked to you about orphans?
Yeah.
And so now the state is leaving orphan kids in their houses, right?
Yeah.
Because they take people from their houses and children's just got abandoned.
Wow.
What do you think that these little kids are gonna think in maybe 5 years?
I'll do everything I can to stop the government from doing something else.
Yes, man. I mean, they are they're gonna harvest hate. That's what they're gonna harvest, and everyone is gonna pay for that.
Just like
What
just like what happened in the 80s.
we are in a vicious circle, man.
But so I can't help but speculate about the other side, because just a few weeks ago, a friend of mine who's kind of in the tech industry said, "Hey man, I'm thinking moving to El Salvador because there's like a new tech hub there because there's there's no crime anymore and it's really safe." And um, in addition, um, all over Latin America, everyone's looking at El Salvador because the popular narrative is that it used to be a failed state that was really dangerous, and now people can walk out in the streets and shop and they don't have to pay extortion and now it's safe. That's the popular narrative from what I gather.
And it's a partial truth.
Yeah.
Yeah. Why? Because yes, the gangsters are not anymore in the streets. They are not annoying people. They are not killing people, and it's okay. But you know what? The leader the historical leaders of these criminal structures, we don't know where they are, right? And one of the last investigation of this, I mean, is you have to read it. You're gonna see the government released one of the top criminal minds of a gang. He had a sentence for 40 years.
Hmm.
So they released him, they gave him a gun, they put it into a luxury apartment in one of the most exclusive zones here, and then they moved him out to Guatemala.
Hmm.
Now the United States captured him in Mexico. So tell me, what the hell in the world is doing someone who has to be in jail for the rest of his life in Mexico?
There was probably some negotiation between the government and organized crime.
Yes, and the worst thing, like the worst of the worst thing right now, is that these guys showed that the government even tried to capture him again, even with the help of the Jalisco cartel.
Hmm.
What do you think about a government who's having talkings with cartels?
Well, hasn't it always kind of been like that?
Yes, but now the government may have done a job that the cartels could find more hard to do, like fight for territory against the gangs. So there's something that's happening here. I don't know how it's in the states, but here uh, there is a law that says that art you don't pay taxes for for concert. I mean, artists do not pay taxes,
Hmm.
and any cultural concert and whatever that everyone calls art or culture, it's let me find the right words because
It's it.
it's their value is subjective. Let's say that Scorpions, you need to pay them $1 million. Okay, you pay for that $1 million, but who's gonna tell you that you didn't won $12 million with that concert? Huh? Why? Because you have sponsors and the people, actually for a lot of concerts, radio stations, they just give to people
Hmm.
because those tickets are already paid for for whom who pay for that. I mean, artists do not perform for free,
No.
right? So right now there are a lot of concerts right now. Why? Well, because of that. Because that's a laundry machine.
Mm.
Those kind of events are laundry machines. About what your friends were saying, well, that's one of the good things that this guy has done. Why? Because he wants to bring investment from outside. So if you create a technology company here, you won't pay taxes for property, for profits, or whatever for a period of 15 years. Of course, it's interesting for people from outside. How much do you pay for a rent for an apartment in Texas? $1,500.
Hmm.
So if you pay for that and then you come here and you pay a house like $800,
For a whole
or I mean, with $1,000, man, you can rent a house
house.
that it's big, or maybe you can buy your own home,
Mm.
right?
Yeah.
So yes, but all these conditions, all these benefits are far away from the average Salvadoran. Today, I saw on the news that there was a Salvadoran immigrant that her literal words were this: there are no more gangs, there's no more violence, but the economics is absolutely zero.
Hmm.
So why? What I mean, it's interesting. I mean, how do you say? Well, it's the safest country in Latin America. If you quote it,
Wow.
why? And so why the economics are so bad? Well, because foreign companies don't want to invest in a place where all the fundamental rights are not guaranteed,
Mhm.
right? The the Congress approved a new expropriation law that almost they can take anything from you if they want at the time they want.
Wow.
And actually they prior law used to say that okay, imagine that you have a big house or a big ranch or whatever. So the government want to build a highway and it's gonna cross your land. So the first law used to say if the state is gonna take something from you, it's gonna pay you a lot of higher value for your land because well we're taking it from you. Maybe you don't want to sell it, but hey man, we need it. So and it was like okay, I'll take my money and I go far or whatever. I can buy anything. I can buy something better or whatever. Not that's not anymore. That's not the situation anymore. They can just tell you we need this. It's public interested. Goodbye.
Wow.
Ha! Imagine Elon Musk trying to do some investment. Does Mr. Musk want that maybe in 6 months someone tells him, hey, everything that you have here is not yours anymore. So yeah, so I mean American companies have gone are like three or four big American companies that shut down their operations here in this period. Actually, an interesting fact.
Hmm.
In this period of this president, the foreign investment have fallen at 44%.
44%. Almost half.
Yes. I mean, almost, yeah. mean, I
Even
mean, what
so,
does that mean? What does that mean? A lot of people without unemployment. Those are the guys that are arriving to the south border of Texas.
wow.
It's crazy, right?
That doesn't make any sense because, everyone in Latin America is all talking about how they want to be El Salvador now.
Well, I mean, the thing is how long it will last.
Yeah.
How long? Yeah. So,
Hey,
well, that's something. And if you ask if and this is the thing, if you ask the poorer, the most needed people, I mean, they are in heaven now
uh
because there are no gangs, you know, behind their children's. I mean, imagine this in these popular neighborhoods. It was almost a crime to have a beautiful daughter because the gangs saw her and they were starting to tell, hey, your daughter is pretty, right? Oh man, she's getting pretty day after day. And what they were trying to tell us, that we're gonna take it from you. It's nothing, right?
That's terrible.
So of course they feel free right now. There's no one pursuing them. If you ask to other sectors of society, man, everyone is telling now we are a truly failed state.
So before you had to worry about violence from the gangs, and now you have to worry about violence from the government.
Exactly. There's no better words for that.
What would you say to those in Latin America who are looking to El Salvador as maybe a model of something that they want to do?
Oh man, that's a tough question. I think that the state of exception, it was a right move, yes, of course, but you cannot let it like for the rest of time. It had to be in a short period because that's the excuse to have people in control. So more government, more state is not the solution. It's actually freedom. There was a time that if you got injured, a thief or a gangster, and the police got you, man, you were going to jail. Why? Because it's a fact that you killed the man. But these guys, they were released after 5 years or something like that, and they were always doing crimes and repeating. So yes, people don't want blood in their hands. That's clear. Okay, let the government take this hard task. So now I'm gonna put this scenario, right? When if the gangs are over, if there's no more robbers, or it's pretty safe, and the things in economics start to get bad, and when people start to do protests, to go outside to the streets, who's gonna be the target of all the new weapons that the president bought? When there's no more guilties to point, who's they're coming for you, man.
There always needs to be a scapegoat in a fascist society.
Yes, I mean, yes, and they want to control. I mean, uh, they can. Let's talk about the communications or the privacy things. I mean, before this general attorney was elected, or let's say elected in a very legal way, you had to have uh, an order from a judge that the prosecutors could hear your phone, right? It was a process. I mean, they had to show evidence that led to a judge to say, "Hey, now you can hear all his calls." That does not exist anymore. No one has the right of privacy.
And now they have the right to search and they don't even need to ask for it.
Yes, I mean, I actually, um, there was a case in that, let's say a number, 30 journalists, they had their phones hacked with a software made by Israel Pegasus. It was like, I mean, how the hell in the world do you think that you're gonna have a normal life inside a police state or something like that? So that's what we're truly becoming.
So your message would be they'll go after the criminals, but then they'll go after you.
Yes, that's the thing. When people start to protest, to hey, because people has short memory.
Yeah, it's
they're they're gonna forget about their security problems. They're gonna start, hey, now what's up with economics? And the thing is that maybe to stay in control, they're gonna release some gangsters to kill some people. And oh no, we are still in a fight on these terrorists. I mean, it's a total mess, right? You know why? Now the general attorney has the full power to say who's a terrorist and who's not, just to fill a list. Imagine that, man. So yes, I mean, after they end up with all criminals and all robbers and all stuff, they're going after you. And if you say no, you're screwed.
yeah.
If you say if you're against them, but basically if you're against them, Run for your life, man.
Wow.
That's what's gonna happen in a few years. There's no doubt about it.
Is there anything else you want people to know about El Salvador?
Well, if you come to El Salvador, you're gonna find kind people, people who always smiles,
Hmm.
people who always are working. We are also known as pretty hard workers, and maybe I don't know. You're gonna find a talent people. I mean, if someone is trying to do some investment here, they need to check out, because why? There are a lot of engineers around here. There are a lot of technicians. There are a lot of people that speak two languages, and there are. I mean, people is what truly matters.
Hmm.
No,
You know,
no matter what the
you
creed is.
yeah, you I mean you take the politicians out of the equation, and it's always been like kind of the same. Good people, hardworking people. No, that's it. I mean, you need to be very careful. Of course, you had to find out a lot of things. You need to um, put everything into a balance. Let's would say so. If it's, I mean, if it's good for you, come on, take your shot.
Nice.
But I mean, if you love freedom, if you don't like the state in the middle of everything, you have to think it twice. I hope this in this election people find the balance and they remove all these congressmen that are they just push buttons. They even do not read the laws that they approve. And we need to put more control over the president. That's the truth.
So the election is in a couple of days.
Yes, this next Sunday.
What are you observing around you in the last part of the campaign?
Look, actually, this has been a very interesting period. The man is at the top of his popularity. There's no political challenger for him.
Really?
No one has ever. I mean, you haven't. I haven't seen a campaign period like this. Why? Because no one did nothing to fight for running for president. I mean, it was like no, it's astonishing
Wow.
how no. I mean, he has no political rivals.
There are no major candidates running against him?
There are other guys, but they do not exist
Oh,
virtually. There is a face, but I'm pretty sure that people never rail their plan for the government. They never heard an interview because they are fans of presidents and they are comfortable with the idea that he is gonna be our king. Man, I mean, are you serious? And they are comfortable with the idea that he's gonna stay in power forever. Now that you ask, it's like some people is like, I'm not even going to vote. He's gonna win. He's gonna win. I mean, or some other I'm gonna vote for President Bukele and I'm gonna vote for all the Congress to be his Congress, and because they have removed all these criminals from the streets. It's a kind of valid point, but it's not everything. You need to have the capacity to defend yourself if your life is being threatened. You need to have strong institutions to pursue all these guys. Imagine that some gangsters that committed a lot of crimes in the United States and they were deported, and now the prosecutors of New York or places like that are asking for extradition of this gangster to face the American justice. and now the judges are blocking that those extraditions.
So why wouldn't they extradite?
And that's the big question because this is part of their negotiations.
Oh, it's like a bargaining chip.
Yes, 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 sir. It's like, okay, I mean, the journalists have showed evidence that they made a note, let's say, with the gangster, like, okay, if you help me to reduce homicides and to don't do anything on people, I'm gonna go after you.
Hmm.
And we're gonna send you to face another justice system that is not ours.
Hmm.
Why? Because I mean, in the United States, once that the prosecutors have evidence that you failed, brother, you're in problems. You're not gonna you're gonna be inside a jail for a long, long time, maybe for the rest of your life.
Unless you're running for president.
Yes, right. Yeah, so that's the situation. I'm truly of course I have hope.
Mhm.
I hope that people thinks very well their vote. And it's for me, I'm gonna tell you something. If he wants to stay, it's okay. 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 You did your moves, you're smart, it's okay. But people must put different congressmen to have balance, to restore our democracy. If we don't do it on Sunday, then we're gonna start. I mean, we're traveling into, I don't know, maybe 1970,
Oh.
1976, where military ruled the
So
country.
we've seen this movie before.
Yes, exactly, exactly. That's the way it is.
But this time in high resolution.
Yes, and with quantum computers and whatever. Yes, you're watching it in live stream.
Well, thank you, Rudolfo, so much for helping to shed some light on how it is in El Salvador. It's sometimes hard to get an idea of what's going on around the world, so I'm really happy to hear your perspective.
Thank you, Tex. You
Hey,
know, actually, now that you mention, I have a friend that is from Costa Rica, and she told me, like, pretty convinced, hey, I'm pro Bukele. I really like the way he does, and are you sure? And she told me, okay, uh, I challenge you to change my mind about all the things that he's doing. Once I show her all the things, all the negotiation and all the evidence, she was shocked.
oh wow.
She was like,
She's shocked in a different way.
yes, she was like,
Now,
I can't believe what you're telling me. I can't believe what I'm seeing. That's not what the news show around the world. That's nothing of that is showed in any part of anywhere. So yeah, I mean, actually, it's been an honor for me to be talking with you, to have the opportunity to tell people that this is not Wonderland.
Stay safe in Santa Ana, and hopefully we can do this again in a few years and there will be a better situation.
I hope so. I hope so, and everyone here. I guess that that's what in the bottom of our heart that's what we want.
yeah.
We want to be peaceful, but some people do not understand how valuable, how worth is freedom.
You don't appreciate it until you lose it.
Yes, yes, shamefully. It's that's the way. Yes, yes.
We always need a good warning because it can happen anywhere, and it's important for countries to learn from each other's mistakes.
Yes, actually, one other thing is that, and I don't want to be like a negative. If we don't stop the situation right now, we might end like Ecuador. Why? Because all these guys are linked to narcos.
That's
They
right.
are linked to all that dark world, and we know how that ends. So I hope that I might have the opportunity in the future to talk about this, and I really hope to give you good news.
Yeah.
But if you see something like pretty bad in a few years, well, you know what it is.
Better.
Thank you, Tex. I really appreciate,
Likewise.
and and as I repeat, it has been a nice chat, an honor to have a little voice to
Yeah,
know to people to know another the other side of the coin.
definitely, definitely. Awesome. Thank you, man. Appreciate it.